If you are from Hindi background, then I would suggest you to first go through the Hindi version of this editorial to get familiar with the theme of this editorial. The link is given in the description box. Now let us try to understand this editorial. Media and sedition. Let us understand the term sedition. Sedition means to rebel against the existing government. When you use some violent activities to destabilize the existing government, it is called sedition. We generally see that media persons criticize the policies of government. Media persons often criticize the actions of government. Then what does government do? Government immediately applies sedition charges against these media persons. Recently what happened? So many judgments have been given by the Supreme Courts relating to laws of sedition. And these judgments have been mostly in the favor of media persons. The Supreme Court says that you cannot prevent the expression of free speech. You cannot prevent the freedom of speech in the name of sedition. So the Supreme Court's rulings means verdicts, judgments on cases of sedition give hope the law will be re-examined. So many thinkers believe that the laws related to sedition were introduced by the Britishers, and these laws were enacted to prevent the Indians to criticize the British government. So many people, or you can say that so many civil society persons still believe that these laws should be abolished, or at least we should consider them again. So the Supreme Court's ruling on cases of sedition give hope the law will be re-examined. So we can hope that the law related to sedition will be re-examined or will be re-looked. It has long been recognized. Recognize means to accept the truth of something. That strident criticism. Strident criticism means strong criticism, powerful criticism of government will not amount to. Amount to means equal to. An attempt to excite disaffection. Disaffection is opposite of affection. Affection means a feeling of friendliness, and disloyalty. What is loyalty? Loyalty means to show your strong support to someone. It is called loyalty, and the opposite of loyalty is disloyalty towards government. So what is the meaning of this line? So many people have been believing that if you strongly criticize the actions of government, it should not be equal to that you are against the government, or you are creating the feelings of disaffection. Yet still the archaic means old. So many people believe that the law related to sedition is very old, and it belongs to colonial period. Colonial period means when most of the countries were under the control of Britishers. So what was the colonial view? So at that time Britishers who introduced this law, that an intemperate means uncontrolled, intemperate attack on an incumbent ruler. Incumbent ruler means someone who is in power. Incumbent, you say if you are in power, then we may say that you are incumbent. At present BJP is incumbent at central government. Incumbent ruler should be met with fierce prosecution. Fierce means very violent. Prosecution means to initiate the proceedings against someone for sedition. Prevails means to exist among many in power even today. So many people believe that this is a view, this is a point, or this is an opinion which belongs to colonial period. What was the colonial view? What Britishers used to think? Britishers used to think that if any uncontrolled attack is made against the incumbent ruler, then it should be treated with it should be treated with it should be treated violently. And this, you can say that this practice is in existence even today. So many governments still use this law. In a significant judgment, you can say that a very important judgment have been given by the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court has quashed. Quashed means to reject something completely. A criminal case registered in Himachal Pradesh against journalist Vinod Dua. So there was a sedition case which was registered in Himachal Pradesh against the journalist Vinod Dua. So the Supreme Court has completely rejected the criminal case which was registered against Mr. Dua, है ना? So you can say that sedition charges were made against Mr. Vinod Dua and a case was framed, but Supreme Court rejected the case. By invoking means by using. Invoke means to use something. The narrowed down. When you narrow down something, you make it specific. So you can say that at present, sedition, at present, the law related to sedition is in a very general form. So you can consider anything in government. At present, government may consider any type of your opinion under sedition. So Supreme Court made it very specific. The narrowed down meaning of what constitutes an offense. Offense means crime under section 124A of the IPC. The provision for sedition. The provision for sedition has been described under section 124A of the IPC. Set out in Kedarnath Singh. So there was a case, Kedarnath Singh, and in that case, some, you can say that the judgments which was given in this case, Kedarnath Singh case, Supreme Court used this case and saw some provisions, and Supreme Court made very specific. Supreme Court made very specific opinion about sedition and rejected the case against Mr. Vinod Dua. Every journalist, the court has ruled. Rule means to give judgment. Every journalist, the court has ruled, is entitled to the protection of that judgment. Every journalist, the court has ruled, is entitled to the protection of that judgment. So what did the Supreme Court said? What did the Supreme Court say recently? Supreme Court said that in the Kedarnath Singh, by following the Kedarnath Singh judgment, every journalist is entitled to the protection. In this judgment, Kedarnath Singh judgment, the court has ruled, is entitled to. Entitled to means that you are eligible to get something, the protection of that judgment, which said. So what was said in the Kedarnath Singh judgment? Comments. If you comment something, however strongly worded, your comments may contain very harsh words expressing disapprobation. When you express disapprobation means you are not happy with something, you are unsatisfied with something, expressing disapprobation of actions of the government. So if you are dissatisfied with the actions of government, you may comment in very harsh words without exciting those feelings which generate the inclination to cause public disorder by acts of violence would not be penal. Penal means that penalty can be given. Penal, if anything comes under penal means there should be penalty should be applied. So in that judgment it was said that you may criticize the policies or actions of government if you are not using violence, if you are not creating public disorder, if you are not exciting violent behavior among the people, then you may criticize in very strong words. It will not be considered as crime. It will not come under the provision of penal. The law on sedition has come a long way. So the law on sedition, the law related to sedition has travelled a long distance. From the formulation of British era judges, era means the time period. है ना? So this law was made during the, you can say that during colonial period, or it was made by the Britishers, or it was made by the British judges Comer Petheram and Arthur Starchy, that feelings of disaffection towards the government cannot means to suggest something, absence of affection. So they were the judges Comer Petheram and Arthur Strachey, and they made the law related to sedition. So what did they say? Feelings of disaffection. Disaffection, I already told you, the opposite of affection. Affection means a feeling of friendliness. So if there is a feeling of hostility, you can say that feelings of disaffection. So what does the meaning of feelings of disaffection? Absence of affection, hatred, enmity, dislike. You can say that these are all synonyms. Dislike, if you do not like anybody, it is dislike. Enmity, if you have a feeling of hostility, this is also written here, hostility. Hostility and enmity are also the same word. Hatred means also that if you dislike something. So feelings of disaffection means if you have the feeling of hatred, enmity, if you dislike, and if you have the feeling of hostility against the government, and every form of ill will towards the government. What is the meaning of ill will? Ill will means to have a negative feeling. If you have a negative feeling against the government, it will be considered in sedition. To the more rational reading, that only a pernicious means something that is detrimental, something that harms you. It is called pernicious. So you can say that the law on sedition has travelled a long way. It was made during British period, but to the more rational means logical, and recently a logical reading has been made regarding to law of sedition, that only a pernicious tendency, pernicious means something that harms you, tendency to create public disorder would be an offense. But recently logical thinkers read the law of sedition as, they say that if there is something harmful, if we see that there are some activities which can create public disorder, then it will be considered offense. Then the sedition charges may be applied against that person. Yet still it appears that every generation needs a judicial iteration. Iteration means a repetition. When you repeat something, it is called repetition. It is called iteration. So it appears that every generation needs a judicial iteration of this principle. So editorial says that it is not enough to say only one time. It should be said time and again by our judicial system, that recent judgments have been given by the Supreme Courts in the favor of media persons that are okay, but still it should be repeated again and again by the courts, or by our, you can say that by our judicial system, and that is because of two reasons. Why should it be repeated again and again? Because of two reasons. That section 124A remains on the statute book. Statute means legal, law, and a law book. Statute book means law book. So we have not deleted the section 124A. It is still in our law book, that section 124A can still be applied against anyone. And that powerful political figures, है ना, powerful political figure means you can say that strong political leaders and their minions, minions means supporters, are unable to take criticism in their stride. देखो, when you take something in your stride, what does it mean? When you take something in your stride, it means to deal with a difficult situation calmly, to deal with a difficult situation in a very calm manner. So generally if anyone criticize government, then political figures gets disappointed immediately. Then minions means supporters of political leaders, gets infuriated, gets excited. So to prevent them, it is needed that judicial system repeat again and again that it is not a crime to criticize the government's actions. Enacted, when you enact something means to create something. Enacted, to put down someone. If you say that I want to put him down, then you want to discourage that person. So enacted to put down journalistic criticism of the colonial administration from an increasingly vocal. When you are vocal about something, then you support something very strongly. It is called vocal praise. So Indians at the time of colonial period used to write against the Britishers. So to suppress those Indians, the laws of seditions were created. Laws of seditions were created to put down journalistic criticism of the colonial administration from an increasingly vocal praise. Section 124A is essentially a provision which seek means when you desire something, when you look for something, which seeks to protect the government's institutional vanity. Vanity means excessive pride from disapprobation. Disapprobation means if you are not agree with something, if you are against something, then it means it is disapprobation. Using the interests of public order and security of the state as a fig leaf. This is an idiom, to use something as a fig leaf. So what does the meaning of to use something as a fig leaf means? To conceal the real intention, in the name of something. So what does the government do? Government is excessively proudy. Editorial wants to say that provision under section 124A makes the government protect the government's institutional vanity. So government uses section 124A to protect its excessive pride. If anyone tries to disagree with the policies of government, then government in the name of public order, then the government in the name of security of the state applies the sedition charges against that person. So it is to use something as a fig leaf. To use as a fig leaf means to hide the real problem, to hide a difficult situation in the name of some other matters. So here what is government doing? Here in the name of public order, here in the name of security of the state, the government frequently applies the sedition charges against the person who criticized the government's policy. It has often been criticized for being vague. Vague means unclear. When something is unclear, so there is a lack of clarity, so you called it vague. And overbroad. Overbroad means when something is overbroad means it is very general. So law should be very specific. So it has often been criticized for being vague and overbroad. So you can say that this law has been criticized several times by the prominent thinkers. Prominent thinkers say that this law is unclear and this law is very general. Government may apply this law at any time. So this law should be made, or you can say that this law must be made specific, and the government should make this law very clear. Its use of terms such as bringing government into hatred or contempt. What is the meaning of contempt? You have often heard the contempt of court. Contempt of court means when you do not respect something. If a judgment has been given by the Supreme Court and you say that I do not accept the Supreme Court's judgment, then you will be charged under the contempt of court. So bringing government into hatred or contempt and disloyalty and all feelings of enmity continues to help the police to invoke. Invoke means to use something, to use a law. It is called invoke it whenever there is either strong criticism. So there are so many terms, there are so many conditions in this law. What are the conditions? If the police see that there was an attempt to bring the government into hatred, if anyone tried to create the feeling of hatred against the government, if the police or government found that anybody's action was disloyal and all feelings of enmity and every type of feeling of enmity or every type of feeling of hostility continues to help the police to invoke it whenever there is either strong criticism or critical depiction. Depiction means to show something of unresponsive or insensitive rulers. So whenever we see, or you can say that whenever there is an attempt, whenever we see that a media person or any general person tries to criticize the government or insensitive rulers, if you do not consider the feelings of public, you will be considered an insensitive ruler. So whenever a person writes against the insensitive ruler, or whenever a person writes against the insensitive government, the police may immediately use the sedition laws. The explanation that disapproval of government. So I already told you disapproval means disapproval means to be dissatisfied. The explanation that disapproval of government actions or measures means steps with a view to altering them by lawful means. Alter means to change something by lawful means will not amount to means equal to, amount to an offense is not enough. So editorial says that it is not enough. By the Supreme Court, the explanation has been given that you can criticize government actions or you can use some measures, you can take some steps to change the policies of government by lawful activities. Lawful means will not amount to an offense, then it will not be considered crime. If you want to criticize government, you can criticize it, or if government has already taken some action and you want to change that action, then you should only use some legal means. You can use lawful activities, you can use such type of activities which comes under the law, then you will not come under the crime. So this explanation has been given by the Supreme Court, but editorial says this explanation is not enough to restrain. If you try to restrain something means to control, to try to control someone is not enough to restrain the authorities from prosecution. Editorial says that this explanation is not enough for the government. Government may still prosecute anyone. The mischief lies in the latitude. Latitude means scope. Latitude means freedom. There is a gap given to the police. So editorial says that the prominent point is that A scope has been given to the police by an insecure political leadership. By the political leaders, freedom has been given to police to come down on. See this phrasal verb, come down on. Come down on means to take strong action against someone. To come down on the government's adversary. Adversary means opponent. So editorial says that the main point is the police has been given strong powers by the political leaders, that it has been said by the political leaders to police that you should behave very strongly against the government's adversaries. Those who try to oppose the government, then you should treat them very strongly. It is unfortunate that the bench didn't go into the aspect of political motivation behind the police registering FIR. So editorial says that it is unfortunate. What is unfortunate? It is unfortunate that the bench didn't go into the aspect. Aspect means a different, you can say that it was also a point that should be examined, of political motivation, a political encouragement behind the police registering FIRs. So editorial says, in the first place, why did the police register FIR? Police register FIR because of political pressure or because of political pressure. So this was the point that should have been examined by the court, but that aspect was not examined by the court. Without checking, we generally see that police register FIR without checking the fact, without checking if the required ingredient of incitement. Incitement, I already told you that incitement, such type of activities when you make a crowd violent, it is called incitement. If you make a crowd violent, it is incitement. Incitement to violence is present. So editorial says that police do not check. Police, when register FIRs in the name of sedition, at that time police should check whether there was any action of incitement present, but police do not check this fact. The court's verdict brightens the hope that the section's validity will be re-examined. So editorial says the recent Supreme Court verdict means judgment, brightens the hope. The recent Supreme Court judgment gives us hope that the section 124A will be re-examined, means it will be re-looked. For now, at present, it is a blow for speech. It is a blow for speech. It is a blow for speech. It is a blow for free speech and media freedom. So when you say a blow for something means it supports that thing. When you say a blow for something, it means it supports that thing. So the recent judgment of the Supreme Court supports free speech and media freedom.